you can just hover on the Zoom app on the bottom of the screen. There is a record button, and you can record the whole meeting. But I see Oscar is already recording it, so yeah, again, if needed, he can distribute the video file if needed. Okay, so hi to everyone. Is this everybody that is going to join?
And we need already to the people from concierge. Just give me a minute.
I'm here.
Hello there.
Hi, this is Carolina.
Hello, Carolina. My name is Ilya.
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well.
Bonjour.
¿Ya todos nos ven?
Sí. Ponte.
Todavía no dice iniciando.
Okay.
¿Para marcar el teléfono?
Hi.
Hello there.
Who is Rocco?
Bonjour, ça va?
C'est toi. Ça va bien.
Comment vas-tu, Alia?
Ça va bien et toi?
Ça va, merci beaucoup.
Hi, Ilya. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, is everybody now in the meeting that needs to join?
And I just need one more person.
Okay.
I'm just missing Gabriela. Hold on 2 minutes, please. Maybe less.
Okay, no worries. In the meantime, I'm going to share my screen. Basically, the training itself will happen. I'll be basically showing you one of our demo accounts, our test accounts, because in that account, we, of course, already have like bookings and so on. So we have some data that we can use and basically show how to handle it and so on. So now I'm going to share my screen. And I hope everybody can see it. Does everybody see my screen at the moment?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, shall we start?
Yes, we can start.
Okay, great. Well, to start off, basically, we will start with the home screen of Clock PMS, accessible from here, and every time you log in, you will basically see this screen. What's most important about the home screen are basically the to-dos. These are basically the internal tasks and internal communication channel in Clock PMS. These to-dos can be either manually created by yourselves, or they, more importantly, they are automatically created when, for example, a booking is created on your website, or a booking is imported from a channel such as Booking.com or Expedia. And basically, the automatic to-dos provide a lot of information regarding bookings, regarding canceled bookings, modifications to bookings, any active charges that you have in canceled bookings. So it is very important to keep an eye on this home screen and the to-dos, because the automatic ones give you a lot of information. Now, how to see the to-dos? Basically, every user in Clock PMS can have different to-do channels. And these to-do channels are accessible from here. When you edit the user that you want to assign a to-do channel, here we have to-do channels. And these are the predefined to-do channels, and these ones are custom ones that you can create additionally. What is important is that the people in your organization that need to know everything about what is happening with bookings, with payments, with the channel manager, and so on, should have the to-do channels, bookings, channel manager, and payments at least active for them. Because these are the most important channels in terms of information about bookings, cancellations, modifications, and so on. And every user can have different to-do channels, can have all of them. It's really up to you. And what is the purpose of this to-do channel is basically that every to-do can be assigned to a certain channel. If we have a look here at this one, this to-do is assigned to to-do channels booking. So every user that has a to-do channel booking active for them, they will see this to-do. If they don't have this channel active for them, they will not see it. So this way you can have, for example, if you're using, if your housekeeping staff also has access to the system, they can only see the housekeeping channel. They don't need to know about the creation of a booking, cancellation of a booking. They have the housekeeping report for that. But for example, you want to send a message to the housekeeping staff, and you can use and create a to-do and assign it to channel housekeeping, and this way only the housekeeping staff will see that to-do, basically. And yeah, as I mentioned here, you have all of them. They can be also assigned to a specific user. Currently it's unassigned, but you can assign it to a specific user that you want to do this task. And when you save it, basically this is how it will be seen. On top you have your personal to-dos, and on the bottom you have all the to-dos which are unassigned. And of course you have a link to the booking to which this to-do is referring. And basically when you open the booking from here, you can handle the request. Furthermore, from the booking itself, you can add a to-do that will be attached to this booking. But we'll come back to that on a later stage. The next topic, or one of the most important screens, of course, are the arrivals and the departures for the day, accessible from menu booking arrivals. By default, it is generated for the current date. And what you see are basically all information regarding bookings that should arrive today, or now that when it loads, I will show you, because there are 3 different sections in this screen. It just needs to load. So basically, as you can see here, we have 3 different categories: expected, checked in, and expired. The bookings that you see here under expected are the bookings that should arrive today, but basically are still not in the hotel. And the check-in button hasn't been pressed, basically. So these are bookings that should arrive today, but are not yet in the hotel. The checked-in bookings are bookings that should arrive today and are already in the hotel and are checked in. And finally, we have the expired bookings. These are bookings that should have arrived on a previous day, for example, yesterday or the day before, and so on. But the check-in button hasn't been pressed. They haven't been checked in. It might be that they are in the hotel, just the front office agent or whoever dealt with that arrival didn't press the check-in button. So these are the expired bookings. As you can see, for all of them, the arrival day is a previous day in the past. And this means just that the check-in button hasn't been pressed if they indeed arrived. Usually the best case scenario is that you should not have expired bookings. They should either be checked in, or if they didn't show up, basically you should mark the booking as a no-show or just cancel the booking. The ideal scenario is that you should not have expired bookings here in this field. In terms of the information that you see here, basically it is the most important information: number of the booking, name of the guest, what is the room or the room type that is assigned. As you can see here, for this booking we only have a room type assigned, but not a specific unit, so not room 102, just an apartment deluxe. So this for this booking, I need to allocate a specific unit. So from here, I can just press this button, and the system will allocate a room from this room type that is free for the period that the guest or the booking is basically staying. For the other bookings, as you can see, we already have a arrival unit assigned beforehand. And furthermore, here you have more with the guest profiles, information from the guest profiles, like label or request by this guest. These show up when you have a guest profile created, for which we'll talk about a little bit later. And basically, you'll see that, for example, this is a return guest or a VIP guest, and that they need special attention or a discount, and so on. So you see the most important information and, of course, the balance that they have in their bill currently. And furthermore, from here, you can just, whenever the guest arrives, you have a direct button to check in the booking. Pressing it basically makes that booking checked in, and the status changes. What we recommend is to always use the check-in and check-out button. It is not a requirement. It's not something that really needs to be done. I mean, the system allows you not to press those buttons, but in order for the system to operate correctly and to provide you all the proper information, then it is highly advisable to always use the check-in and check-out buttons. So yeah, this is the arrival screen. Of course, this is for today, but you can also select another day that you want to see what is the situation with the arrivals. You can print it, and you can even have a little bit more simpler view with less information. The next important screen are basically the departures. It works on the same principle. Here you see all the departing rooms or bookings for the day. Departures are bookings that should leave today but still haven't left, or at least the check-out button hasn't been pressed. While the checked out are bookings that should leave today and have already left, and the staff or whoever pressed the check-in button in that booking. Here again, we have the case where the system tells you that there are bookings in the past that should have been checked out but haven't been checked out. The ideal case again is that you shouldn't see this message. When your booking is checked out, you should always press the button to check it out. The final screen from here is the in-hotel. Basically, it gives you a summary of all these screens. Check-in buttons, the checked-in bookings, the departures, the expected for today, and the stay over are all the other bookings that are staying tonight in the hotel. They are not arriving today, they are not leaving today, but they are staying in the hotel today. So these are the stayovers. Do you have any questions for these screens?
No.
No.
Okay. In that case, I will continue with the next and actually the most important and most used screen in the system, which is of course the room calendar, accessible from button availability, room calendar. And basically this is what will pop up for you with starting, of course, today's date 1 month ahead. Of course, you can also change this period. So let's say I want to see what would be the period from 28th of March until the 28th of April. So I can just select that and the system will change the calendar. However, coming back here, basically what you are seeing are, of course, all your rooms in the property, the respective room type. And of course, the boxes are the bookings themselves. I will start with these two fields here, as they are very important. Of course, firstly, we have the free rooms. And basically, this is a live update. So basically, this information that you see here is always basically correct. What this shows you is how many free rooms you have on this day. In this case, we have 32 free rooms, 33 free rooms, and in these cases, we are heavily overbooked, basically, with too many rooms, actually. But yeah, so this is very important to keep on track because it is live and it updates live, whenever you create or cancel bookings, these numbers here will basically get updated. The other row here that you see are the unallocated bookings. This means is that those unallocated bookings are bookings that haven't been assigned a specific unit or a specific room in which to stay, basically. They have their booking created for a certain room type, but they don't have the unit itself assigned to their booking. And this way, again, for each day, you see how many such bookings you have. And basically, here, this unallocated bookings text is a hyperlink, so you can click on it. And basically, you will see all those bookings that do not have a room assigned. As you can see, for all of them, we only have room type, but not a room. So in this case, I can keep track, and I can, for example, select them, and I can allocate a room for them. And the system, again, will check for the first available room from this room type for this period and assign a specific room. And then when we go back to the calendar and refresh, basically we'll see now that some of them are going to be zeros. Let's see for which period is this, 11 April, 12 April. So here now, basically we have these bookings assigned. This is 10/11, and we assign this to 10/11. So this is to keep track, because best case scenario is that here you have zeros. This means all your bookings have a specific unit assigned, and you will know in which room the guest will be, and so on. What's important is that the unallocated bookings are taken into consideration in your capacity. So this is in order, of course, to prevent overbooks. Even though you have unallocated booking, you still have a booking with the room type. So the capacity of that room type is lowered by 1, of course, because we do have a booking. So this is for you to be certain that you will not get overbooked because of unallocated bookings. The system takes that into consideration and uses it in the website and in Booking.com, Expedia, and so on. Basically closes out your availability with the respective number of rooms. Then, as you can see here, we have basically all the units with their respective room types. In your properties are relatively small, so this might not really matter that much, but you have the option to only see a certain room type in the calendar. So from here, I can just select to check the double rooms, the double standard rooms. And what the system will do, it will only show me the double standard rooms for the period. And of course, these numbers now apply and are regarding the double room. So this means that for this day, I have 12 free double standards. For this day, I have 13 free double standards, and so on. The calendar and the numbers adjust themselves depending on the case. If we select Apartment Deluxe, now again, we'll see that the numbers change, and they apply only for the Apartment Deluxe. Now, the next thing that I want to show you, of course, are these boxes, which are actually the bookings and why they have different colors. Firstly, whenever you hover over a booking, you see the most important information, the period, the room type, the balance of the bill, anything important like a note, and so on. So when you hover over them, you see quite a lot of important information. Now, what are the colors? The colors are basically connected with the guarantee policy for those, and basically with their guarantee status. What is the guarantee status is if you have a guarantee option, for example, prepayment that needs to be done, or paying 50% upfront, and that is basically this color reflects their status. The green color, and actually at the bottom you do have a legend what each color means. The expected expired guarantee, are bookings that should have paid, for example, half of their bill upfront, let's say 2 weeks before arrival, but it's now 5 days before arrival and still they haven't paid their deposit and you haven't marked the booking as guaranteed. So this is basically reflecting that the guest hasn't paid their deposit, and you should basically contact them, check what is going on, and advise them that if they don't pay, they risk to get their booking canceled, for example. Awaiting guarantee, this is self-explanatory. Basically, they're still in the period that they can pay their deposit. Expected, not guaranteed, meaning that this means that the booking doesn't have a guarantee in it, so there isn't anything basically that the guest needs to pay. And of course, the green one is that the booking is guaranteed, the guest has paid in time, or basically did whatever your guarantee policy entails. Black is the checked-in bookings, gray are the checked-out bookings. Here we can see we have a couple of black. So these are currently checked-in bookings. So this is about the colors. Then we have these other colors here marking specific days. What this is basically the labels. Using the labels, you can mark a certain day on the calendar just to bring the attention of the staff to this specific day, that, for example, something very important is happening, or it's a national holiday, or something like that. You just want to mark it on the calendar. And you just enter, click on new, select what color, select which day, and the text you add. And basically what will happen is that this specific day will be marked on the calendar with that color, as you can see here, blue, yellow, gray, and on top you have a summary or a legend what each color means. April Fool's Day, holiday, and so on. So this way you can mark certain days so the staff that are using the room calendar can keep track and know, okay, on this day there is something very important happening, or yeah, for any other purposes that you want to use these labels. Now, the next thing is probably you're wondering, what are these red boxes here under the room types? The red boxes that you see basically reflect the housekeeping status of that specific room. The statuses of the rooms in Clock PMS are 4. The blank one means okay, room is clean, guests can check in, there won't be any surprises. Checked out is basically that this room has been recently checked out, and by default it should be dirty, and housekeeping staff should go and clean it. Whenever you check out a booking from the system, automatically the housekeeping status of that unit becomes checked out. Then we have cleaning in progress and to be inspected. To be inspected, basically usually used if you have a room that hasn't been used for, let's say, 2 weeks, but now a guest is going to stay in that room, and you want someone to go and check if everything is fine. Still, it's been 2 weeks, there might be a little bit of dust and so on and so on. Just for the housekeeping staff to go and check the room that everything is okay, and the guest can check in without any surprises. Cleaning in progress, basically the self-explanatory. The thing with Clock PMS is that you can, even the housekeeping staff, you can give the housekeeping staff, for example, a tablet or a smartphone. You can create a user for them in the system, and they can have access only to the housekeeping report and the housekeeping live monitor. And basically when they themselves can change the status. So let's say that they're now starting to clean room 1011, and when they start cleaning it, they can, using their smartphone or tablet, they can change the status to cleaning in progress. And this also on the housekeeping live monitor, which we will see in a minute. This will be reflected, and the front office staff will know, okay, room 1011 is currently being cleaned, and let's say they need about 15 minutes to get it ready. And again, when, for example, the housekeeping staff is done with cleaning, they can change the status to blank, which means okay. And again, the front office will know, okay, they finished cleaning. If there is a guest waiting in the lobby, you can send them to the room now, to the freshly cleaned room. Then we have this little wrench icon here that you see. Basically, this is the housekeeping warning. Again, clicking on the room, we have this housekeeping warning. It is a free text field, so you can write whatever you want. And again, this can be used by the housekeeping staff. Most importantly, they are in the room, they're cleaning, and they see, okay, the TV is broken or the window is broken, and they can enter this message, window broken, and this way, front office will see this and take the necessary measures to call maintenance guys, stop the room for sale, for example, or whatever needed. And hovering over this little wrench icon, you'll see what is the housekeeping warning. And in order to remove it, just delete and save, and we're back to normal, basically. Any questions up until now?
No, not yet.
Okay, great. The final thing that I want, or actually there are two more things that I want to show you here. Here you have different types of views of the calendar. You can change it to the best, the one that suits you best. I'm not going to go over this. What's important here is the drag and drop. Every time when you open the room calendar, this option is disabled. What's enabling it does is that it allows you to move bookings around on the calendar. If you enable it to work only up and down, this means that you'll be able to move a booking up and down only, meaning that you can change the room or the unit for that booking. But if I try to move it left and right, I cannot. So up and down means basically to allow you to change, to easily change the unit. Moving it left, allowing left or right, basically this changes the period of the booking. So again, if you know that this guest is changing the period, you can very easily, instead of opening the booking itself, you can directly just drag it and change the period like this. And finally, every way basically allows you to do whatever you want with this booking and move it all around the calendar. So I hope, yeah, this is actually the reason why always when you open the calendar, this option will be disabled, because this might lead to mistakes, which are, you know, this function is very important. And yeah, it is disabled just to prevent mistakes with this, because someone by mistake can accidentally move a booking to another room or change the period, which eventually can cause you a lot of problems. This is the drag and drop. And finally, probably you are also wondering, what are these gray boxes here for the rooms? When you have a gray box, this means that this specific unit, 102, for example, if we take, for this period, this room is out of service. There are basically two statuses that a room can have. These are different statuses than the housekeeping status. This is the status of the room itself. They can be out of service or they can be okay. Out of service means that this room will be taken out of your capacity and it will be basically stopped for sale, this specific unit. Usually such cases when there is something broken in it, you need to do repairs in it, and something like that, you can make it out of service. So it's taken out of your capacity, taken out of your availability, and you don't get overbooked and, you know, to wonder what to do with the guest if they book this room. So this is what the gray boxes mean. And how to set up this status is that you can just select a day. For example, let's say that today is the 5th of April, and we understand that one room has a broken toilet. So obviously nobody can stay in that room, or we cannot sell this room. I can click the box on 5th of April, and make the room out of service. And from here I can select from which day to which day and select that it's out of service. And now this room is stopped for sale. Basically, it's taken out of your capacity, taken out of your occupancy reports, or taken into consideration that this room was stopped in the occupancy reports, and so on. And to make it okay, yeah, actually, when you enter the period, it is already defined the period that you want to stop it. And finally, you can also easily create bookings from here, just selecting the day. Let's say you have a walking guest on site that arrived today. They want a room for the next 2-3 nights. And you can directly, for example, click here and book the respective number of nights. Now, what is suggested here is the maximum that this room can have, because we have another booking in this room starting from the 25th. So that is why the system suggests to me maximum 4 nights. It can be, let's say here, if I click here now, it will suggest me only 1 night because I already have a booking for afterwards, and so on. And also I have other stay, book. I can select other stay, other period, and so on. So from here you can easily create a booking, and with already the period and the room itself added in the booking. As you can see, automatically we have the period and the room added in the booking when we start creating it. Now I'll come back to this booking screen in a second. And yeah, so basically this is the room calendar. Gives a lot of information, very user-friendly, and basically makes, in my opinion, life quite easy to handle with bookings and to have an overview of what is happening in the hotel. So yeah, you can constantly use it all the time. So basically this is all that we can say. And I see here that, let me just ask, I see that Alia wrote to me in the chat, is that the maximum period that we see on the calendar? Yes, the calendar loads 30 days only maximum. When you open the book, when you open it, it will load from today, 30 days, but you can change the period. Let's say we want to see what would happen after the 20th of April. So I can change to start from the 28th of March, and I will see until the 27th of April. So I can change the period that the calendar will load. So yeah, this is the room calendar. And then I'm going to go to another screen, which is the occupancy forecast. I see a message here from Rocco. Yeah.
You're smiling, huh?
So yeah, basically you can, let me just quickly check. Basically, when you have a room change of the guest, let's say in the middle of the stay, the guest changes the room, or even from before. Let's take this booking, for example. And just want to check a free room. We have, let's say this booking, room 101. Okay, so let's say it's the middle of the stay of the guest and something happened, or the guest requests another room and so on. We'll cover this again in a second, but when you have the functionality of the room change. So you can add a room change, select the day from which the guest will be in the new room. Let's say from the 7th. Okay, so the guest will change the room from the 7th. I select the day and I select the room that is going to be changed, or the guest is to which room is changing. And firstly, in the booking, you see firstly the initial room, and then that from the 7th of April, the guest has moved to room 101. And then on the calendar itself, you will see this booking basically divided now into 2. As you can see here, we have this booking. It's still one booking. When you click on it, it's going to be always the same booking, but it is divided between the two rooms, so this way you can keep track of those room changes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And yeah, so this is the room calendar and how also the room change is basically visible here. Then we have the occupancy forecast. Here you can select, let's say, for the next 7 days, and what you see is a summary of your occupancy basically and the forecast of your occupancy. So for each room type that you have, you are going to see what is the capacity, if there are any room statuses like out of service and so on, if there you have any bookings, if you have any blocks from events, and at the end how many free you have for the respective day. And at the end, at the bottom, you have basically a whole summary with your total occupied rooms for each day, with the occupancy percentage, and of course the free rooms that you have on that day. And this way, here you have even a bigger period that you can load, or just select a period longer than 30 days. So here, Alia, you can have a bigger overview of the forecast than 30 days. Or you can just select a specific month that you want to see the occupancy. Okay, and so this is the occupancy forecast, quite straightforward. And so I will move on to the housekeeping report. What is the housekeeping report? Basically, this is, you can either print it each morning and give it to the housekeeping staff, or you can, as I mentioned, create a user for them, and they can use a tablet or a smartphone as long as they have a browser, and they can log into the system, and then they themselves can check this housekeeping report. You have several filters here that you can select, but I want to see what is the case for today, 21st. And here what you see is basically each room type with the current status at the time of generating this report. And basically, what is the case here? Are there any bookings? Are people expected to arrive today? Are people expected to leave today, and so on? So as you can see, for 10-11, we're expecting 2 adults to arrive today. In 103, there are people already in that room, and it's their night number 2 out of 5 nights in total. And so on and so on. You also see here on the left side, you see if there are any bookings and how many adults or children are leaving today. And again, here you see the housekeeping warning that we saw earlier, and the text. What is important here is that basically these buttons are clickable. So this way, the housekeeping staff, when they enter the system, they can change it directly, the status. Is it cleaning in progress? Are they finished with cleaning? So basically from here, they can directly change the status. So when they're finished cleaning, bam, okay, and it's a done thing. And yeah, again, you can either print it or just give access to the housekeeping staff. Now, I mentioned this access several times, and I just want to show you how we recommend to do it in case you decide to give them access. Basically, you just need to create a user for them. Housekeeping. Create a user for them, enter some sort of password, and select the account that they will have access. So if it's the same housekeeping staff that will clean all properties, then it's best to give them access to all PMS accounts. If you have housekeeping staff per property, then you can give them access just to that specific property. So selecting the one that they will have access. And here, in terms of the rights, they only need basically, actually nothing else. They just need access to this to the respective PMS account. And from there, they'll have the option to log into Clock PMS, but they will see only housekeeping report and the live monitor, nothing else in the system. They'll not be able to see the calendar, they'll not be able to see reports, they'll not be able to create bookings, basically nothing except what is actually concerning them, the housekeeping report and the live monitor. No, the live monitor actually is a pretty good thing, and it's mainly for the front desk. So when you click on, if you decide to use it, I do recommend just to open this monitor on a tab on the browser, on a separate tab, and always keep it open and leave it with sound on. So when you leave it with sound on, basically when there is an event happening, this sound will be heard and the front desk will know, okay, something happened in terms of housekeeping. So whenever the housekeeping staff or somebody changes the housekeeping status of a room, this sound will be heard. So let's say the staff is finished cleaning room 204, they make it okay, and this sound will be heard as, this little like bell sound will be heard on the front desk, and the front desk will say, okay, something happened with the housekeeping statuses, and they can check the live monitor, and based on how intense the green color is, the closer this event happened. So in this case, it happened just now, so it's very dark green. The lighter the green becomes, the older the event is. And basically this way, it is a very, very quick communication between housekeeping and front desk. I've personally worked in a hotel on front desk, and there we had the walkie-talkies shouting around in front of guests with my housekeeping staff, and you know, not very professional, let's say. And this way, actually, you have a very quick communication too, and the front desk will know what is happening in the rooms. So yeah, if you decide to use this, if you decide to give your housekeeping staff a smartphone or a tablet and access to Clock PMS, I do suggest to have the live monitor opened on the front desk on a separate tab, and just keep it open all the time so that you always hear the sound when something happens in terms of the housekeeping. Okay, so we covered basically the screens. Actually, one more very important thing, and this is mostly important for walk-in guests, the telephone bookings, and mainly for the reservation desk. This screen, the rate and availability screen, is designed to help you give the guest a price as quick as possible. Let's say you have a walk-in or somebody's calling over the telephone and they're asking you, I want to stay between 29th of March and let's say 5th of April. We'll be 2 people. I don't care about the room type. I don't care about the rate. Just give me prices and tell me, of course, what's included in those prices. So you can enter your search criteria here. Now that the guest doesn't care about the room type, we can select all the room types. The guest doesn't care about the rates. He just wants prices and what those prices include. So again, I select all the rates. And I check my availability. What this will do is it will show me all my room types, all the different rates that I have connected to this room type, and the prices. What happens here is that at the end you see this price, which is the total price for the stay. So this is the total that the guest should pay based on this rate for this room type. Clicking on this, basically you see the price per night here. And from here, if the guest says, okay, £7,000, sounds good to me, book me in, you can directly click on book and create their booking. As you can see, we already have the period here, the room type, how many adults, and if there are any meals, they'll be selected. The only thing you need to do is enter a guest name and the booking is created. However, probably you noticed that for some other rates, the book button isn't green. What this means is that this specific rate isn't applicable with the search criteria here for some reason. And clicking again on the price, you will see why. In this case, we have a restriction in this rate, that this rate and this price applies only if the stay is 6 nights or longer. So that is why the button is green, is white. Again, you can create a booking from the backend. You can always create a booking regardless. But having it white, this way the system notifies you that this rate isn't applicable with this search criteria for some reason. And basically just every time, in this case, as you can see, we don't have available rooms. Here, again, we don't have available rooms, so actually, let's change the periods to make it a bit more clear. Okay, so here, for example, this rate applies for only maximum 1 guest in this room, because it's basically a single rate for single people, or for single guests, excuse me. And basically, this is the way to really quickly give prices to telephone bookings, inquiries, or just walking guests who randomly pass by the hotel and they need somewhere to stay, and they're just asking for prices. Obviously, in the system, you can have a lot of rates, and you can select the rates that, for example, apply only for walking guests. So here you have a list with all your rates in the system. You can select your favorite rates, meaning, for example, the rack rates, which apply for walking guests. And just here, when you want to check the availability, just ask the system to check only from your favorite rates. And this way, you basically skip, all the unnecessary rates that do not apply in any case here. And yeah, if the guest likes the price, you can just click on the green book button and you're ready to create the booking itself. Room plan, I'm going to skip it for now. Then the other, actually most important thing is creation of the bookings. You can manually create a booking just by clicking on the booking, new booking button, and basically you will arrive on this screen here. By default, in the system, in order to create a booking, you need 3 things. One is arrival and departure day. The other thing is the arrival room or the arrival room type. And basically some sort of guest information, either email address, some sort of a name, or a company, basically. This, by default, is the required thing to create a booking. Now, depending on what you want in the settings, here you have booking fields, and you can select other fields to be required. For example, here we have that I cannot create a booking without entering how many adults are in that booking. So you can select certain fields from the booking to be required in order to not miss that information. For example, you always want to know from which country is the guest. You always want to know their email address. So this way, when you create a booking, if you don't enter that information, the system will remind you. Let's say now if I click create, basically I get all this notification and it tells me that I need to fill out these fields in order to create the booking. I'll just bring this back to the usual case. And so, yeah, so we can enter a period, company optional, the room type. Now, this is one of the by default required fields. You can either select a specific room type just to take it, to lower your capacity with one from this specific room type, or you can directly select a room, a unit for them. If you select a room type, you can also use the allocate button, and the system will automatically allocate a room from this room type. So 303 is a room type apartment deluxe. So it doesn't randomly select some room, it selects a room from the type that you selected here. Furthermore, you can also use this button here, which will basically show you all the free rooms for this period. And you can select manually a room and assign it to this booking. So we'll keep it like this. I'll enter adults. Children is optional. The children age, this is just informative, doesn't really affect the system in some way. Meal, if you're offering meals, usually if you have rates with meals, then you will, those will be by default added. So, for example, let's say the guests will have breakfast, we select the breakfast, and then we come to the rate. Now, there are several sections here in this drop-down menu. One, as you can see, is match booking. The other one is other. What the match booking means is that these rates here apply for this criteria here. So we have a free room for this period. These rates apply for 2 guests. These rates have breakfast included in them. So basically, these rates match all this information here. Other are basically all your other rates in the system. So you can have a rate for a single person, but still you can select it eventually for this booking. As I mentioned, from the back end, if you have the appropriate user rights, you can do anything. So just by default, there's here, and you can choose them if needed. However, the system always suggests, on the top, suggests the rates that match this search criteria. If I change with dinner and lunch, for example, I'll see now that I have totally different rates here, and which match this, and very much less than previously. This is because these rates here have breakfast, lunch, and dinner included in them, while the others don't have all 3. And then you can select the certain rates. And now, if the booking is for a company, you have a company profile created for them, you can click this if the company will pay the room charges for this booking. Let's say they have a team building event and they're staying 3 days in the hotel, 3 nights in the hotel. And of course, the company will pay the room charges for the nights. And you can use this button that when you create the booking, the room charges will be automatically transferred to the company bill. For that purpose, you need to have, of course, a company selected here, and you can use this button to create a company if you don't have the profile for it, or there's another place that I'll show you in a minute how to create a company profile. So pressing this, because the thing is that when you create a booking in Clock PMS and have a rate selected, or you have a manual price, the room charges are automatically assigned and posted in the bill of that room. So having this active, basically, when they're created, they'll be automatically transferred to the company bill. And basically, you are left here with one open bill that has 0 balance, and that can be used, for example, if the guest is going to use some extra services and will pay by themselves, not the company. Now we have the manual price. This is a function that allows you to add room charges that are not basically prices that are not part of any rate. There is, for example, a special case, and you decide that this guest will pay $100 per night. You don't have a rate with such a price. Your prices, for example, are $200 per night, and so on. You don't have rates for 100. But it's a special guest, return guest, or whatever, and you decide, okay, it's going to be $100 per night. and you can enter this price like this, and the system will count $100 per night. Even though I have a rate here selected, this manual price will override the price that I have in the rate. So it will be the manual price that will be taken in the bill, not the price from the rate. The ability to select a rate along with manual price is just for statistical purposes, marketing purposes, and so on, so that all your bookings have some sort of a rate in them and not manual prices only. Now, the other case is that if you want to have different prices per night, let's say you tell the guest that you pay 100 for the first night, 100 for the second night, 150 for the third night, and 125 for the fourth night. Entering it like this, basically will post this room charges as it is: 100 for the first 2 nights, 150 for the third, and 125 for the fourth night. So this way you can have different prices per night that you can assign to this booking. Now the other case is if we have 4 nights here, but we only have 3 prices here. This means that 100 for the first 2 nights and 150 for the second 2 nights. I don't need to enter here 150 again. It will take this price here. However, I'm not doing it the same way for the 100 because this will take 100 for the first night and 150 for all the other nights. So if I want to make it clear, and 100 for the first 2 nights and 150 for the others, I can make it like this. And when you enter manual price, you always need to select the currency as well. That is given. You need to select the currency as well. And if there is city tax, you can select what would be the city tax mode in applying in this case. Now, again, this is all for manual creation of bookings, and here you can also select the guarantee policy that will apply in this booking. Depending on what is the case, if there is no guarantee, then you can just leave it empty. If it's a walk-in guest, of course, you take the money, for example, on check-in, and so this is irrelevant, basically, and you can just mark it as guaranteed, just to have it green on your room calendar, for example. But if it's a telephone booking up front, you can select the guarantee option that will apply, and this way the system will track what is the guarantee status of this booking. And again, from here, you mark this booking as guaranteed when the guest pays their deposit, for example. In this case, let's say 2 nights. The room change, we saw this earlier. Just add the room change, select from which day the new room will be, and select which is the new room, and save. And basically, you will see also on the room calendar that division of the booking. Estimated arrival and departure time. This is self-explanatory. If you know roughly what time the guest will arrive and leave, you can enter it as information here. And the transfer is usually used for to write down, for example, flight number. If you know the guest is arriving with an airplane and you have that information, you can add what is the flight number of their arrival and their departure. And this is mostly used if you are doing shuttle service, bus from the hotel to the airport. If you're doing this, basically, there is a report in the system. I'll just quickly move over there. We have this report, which is transfers report. You can select for which period to generate it. Let's see if we have some data here with this. Okay, yeah. So generating this report is mainly for the driver of the shuttle bus. And you can give this report to them, and they'll know, okay, I have on the 6th of March, this flight arriving, I have 2 guests to meet at the airport, and using the flight number, they can check or even if you have the arrival time added, it will also show up in the report for the driver if you're providing shuttle service. And so, yeah, this is the transfer. Finally, the charge transfers. Basically, this is if you are going to allow transfers of charges, of bills from other bookings to this booking. Let's say there is a group that has booked, and let's say it's a birthday or something like that, and of course the birthday guy will pay everything, and this way accepting it allows you to transfer all the charges from the other bookings to this one booking in order to have one bill for the guest to pay absolutely everything. So if you want to do these charges between transfers between bookings, you need to have the charge transfers accepted, which by default is done basically. Then the other thing here is self-explanatory. This is all information about the primary guest of this booking, or the person who makes the reservation. So email address, information. This is basically self-explanatory. Here you can, if you're doing a manual booking, you can add a reference number to this booking, which is a custom one that you add. Otherwise, by default, the number of the booking will be considered as a reference number as well. And then we have the marketing source and marketing channel. Depending on what marketing sources and channels you have created in your systems. Depending on the case, you can select it. Again, this is mainly for the marketing purposes. In this case, let's say it's a walk-in guest. And this way, in this case, I'll select direct booking, and I don't have walk-in, unfortunately, here. So yeah, I'll just leave it as direct booking. And this is, again, for marketing purposes and for easily tracking bookings, because there are reports that you can filter based on marketing source and marketing channel. In this way, you can see the revenue that this marketing source has generated, or you can see all the bookings that have this marketing source selected in them. And this way, you have more information and easy finding of certain information that you need. Now, the next thing here, this is the meal. Depending on what is the case here, if you have them selected here, then this is not needed. Actually, very rarely use this this field. The restaurant is if you. This in case you have a very big hotel, you have 2 restaurants, and basically if all the guests, if your hotel is full, all the guests for breakfast cannot fit in one restaurant. And this way you can like divide the guests to have breakfast. So half the guests can have breakfast in the one restaurant, and the other half of the guests can have breakfast in the other restaurant. And here if you have a situation like that, you can select, for example, this booking will eat in this restaurant, the other booking will eat in the other restaurant, in order to not overcrowd your restaurants. But yeah, I'll skip this thing here. The other important thing here are the notes. Housekeeping notes. You can add any information that you have. For example, guest is allergic to feathers, for example. So you should be careful, for example, with the pillows. And this housekeeping note will be visible in the housekeeping report. So the housekeeping staff will see this housekeeping note. The same is with the meal notes. I can add gluten-free, for example. And again, this would be visible in the meal report, the report that you issue for the restaurant. So the restaurant staff knows, okay, today I have 10 bookings having breakfast, and those 10 bookings are from room 101, 102, 105, etc. And they will also see the meal note in this case, in the meal report. Notes are just general notes that if you want to attach to this booking. Links are many links to Facebook page or LinkedIn or whatever. And the client requests, I'm leaving this for last. This is in connection with the self-service portal that we have. This is working basically as an app. The guests can do a lot of things through the self-service portal, and they can also request things. So if the guest requests something, you will basically see it here. What is very important is that if you write something here, the guest can see it in the client request. So I'm mentioning this just to be careful, because if what you write in this field, because the guests can see what you write in the client requests. And here the commission not really needed now, and just create. We'll create the bookings from the. Check. Okay. And when you click on create and you enter some sort of guest information, the booking will be created. Now, as I mentioned, from the back end, if you have the appropriate rights, you'll be allowed to do a lot of things. You can allow room sharing, meaning that two bookings can be in the same room. You have two separate bookings, but can be in the same room, as in this case. And of course, the system notifies me about this, warns me about it. If that's intentional, I can just click continue and the booking will be created. If it was a mistake, I can click on edit and change the room for this booking and so on. If the booking is generating an overbook, again, you will receive a warning message that creating this booking is generating an overbook, and from there you can take the appropriate action. In this case, I just want to create a booking, so I click on continue. And now, basically, my booking is created, my room is assigned, my capacity is basically lowered with one room, my availability actually is lowered with one room, and basically this is the booking screen. Here what's important is, of course, all this information here, which is the balance. As you can see, immediately I have the balance because I have selected a rate in the booking, and the prices from that rate are automatically added in the bill. Now for the bill, I will come back in a second. What's important here, of course, the check-in and check-out button. If it's arrival day and the guest has arrived, then you need to press check-in. As you can see now, it doesn't allow me because it's not the arrival date. Then we have the functions. From here you can also, if I have a room type, select it only, but not a room, I can click allocate room and the system will allocate a room for me, which is of course from the room type and which is of course available. The change log is very important. Here you can see who, when, and what did with this booking. If something was changed, the period was changed. Basically, any kind of information, any action is recorded in the change log. So if in some case something happened, the period of the guest is wrong in the system and so on, you can always refer to the change log and see who, what, and when was done. And this way you can have like an internal audit. Void booking charges. This means that if I click it, all the room charges will be voided, removed, and I'll basically have a zero balance in my bill. Cancel will cancel a booking and mark it as cancelled, and no show will mark the booking as a no show. Now I just want to change the period here to today. So that I can check in my booking. And as you can see, it's now checked in. I have the most important information. I have here the balance. So this is the total balance that the guest has, and this is the required deposit based on the guarantee option that we've selected. 2-night deposit in this case means £254. Is the 2 nights. Now, the other, of course, important thing when you create manually bookings is to send the confirmation email. The confirmation email is sent from here. Click on confirmation, select the language if you have confirmation emails created in different languages, and basically The confirmation email will load. As you can see, there is a lot of information in that email. And you can add some custom text to it if you'd like. And you can either print it or send it. Whenever you send an email, a confirmation email, it would be marked as confirmed. Or I can just press on confirm without sending the email, but I can still mark it as confirmed. And as you can see here now, the status checked in and confirmed. Now, the credit cards field, this is very important here to mention. In Clock PMS, the only allowed field to enter and save credit card details is this field here. Nowhere else in the system is allowed to do that. Not in notes, not in links, not in to-dos, nowhere else. Bear in mind that if you added, for example, the credit card details as a note, we have an algorithm that checks and it will delete the details without notifying you. This is because of our PCI DSS certification, all the Visa and MasterCard requirements, etc., etc. This is all security reasons, and that is why if you don't have them in the credit card field here as a note, at some point you're going to lose them without knowing when and why. Yeah, you know why. Our algorithm basically deleted them. But you don't know, you'll not get a notification about it. So that is why credit card details only from here, and how to add them. Click on operations, save credit card, and you enter all the information. The system checks the structure, so if it starts with a 4, then it's a Visa card usually, and it should have 16 digits. If it starts with a 5, it's a MasterCard, and again 16 digits. If it has 15 digits, then it should be an American Express, etc., etc. And when you save them, basically here in the booking itself, they'll be tokenized, meaning they'll be hidden like this. But the users with appropriate rights in Clock PMS will be able to see all the information if needed. Again, this is the user with appropriate rights. So not everybody can see the whole crate. If you click on preview, you'll basically see a tokenized version, more or less. In order to see all of them, you need to click on edit. And again, only the people who should handle credit card details should have this right. Now, we're coming to the bill. So as I mentioned, by default, when you have create a booking, have a rate or a manual price, the folio, which is the bill in Clock PMS, is automatically opened. Yes, you can. You can add as many credit cards as you'd like, Eric. So one important thing here, when you, again, due to our certification and international security standards and so on, credit card details are deleted 3 days after checkout of the booking or 3 days after cancellation of the booking. The system automatically deletes them. So here, this is something to have in mind. They are kept up to 3 days after cancellation or checkout of the booking. Afterwards, they are deleted from the system, more or less. Okay, then, yeah, as I mentioned, okay, so for the bill, it is open automatically, and all the room charges or the package charges are added in the bill. In order to open the bill, you can either just click on the folio or on the open button, and here you see the guest bill, basically. And there are two sections. One is the payments, the other one is the charges. What the charges are basically the room charges, city tax if you have, if tax is charged separate, and so on. Basically, it is, here you see all those charges. So basically, this is the money that you should get, and at the end you have the total balance, meaning what is the case currently, what are the charges, what is the total, what is the current balance, and if you have any payments. So the charges for the rooms for the nights are automatically added, but let's say the guest is now going to is in the hotel, is going to use extra services, for example, bike rental or excursion, if you offer something like that. To add those charges, you just click on add charge, select depending on what is the case and what you have created in the system up front, you select what you want to add, and just by clicking on it, you're adding it to the guest bill. Alternatively, if you don't have a charge template created for this, something very specific, very special, you don't offer it usually, but you're making an exception for this guest, you can just create a manual charge directly. So you can enter the price, if it's what is the quantity, and what's actually the charge is. Let's say flowers, for example. And again, select the revenue group. And you add it, and as you can see, it is back and added. And when we go to the bill, we will see those charges basically added in the guest bill. And of course, the booking is the balance is respectively adjusted to what is currently the balance. Now, these are the charges. What are the payments? Are here in the payments section, you are indicating what the guest has paid up until now. Let's say it's check-in, the guest is checking in, and you request 50% from the guest to pay you at check-in. So what you can do is you can just click here, enter the amount that the guest will pay, select how the guest will pay, let's say with cash, and you just create payments. And basically this way you're indicating in the system that the guest has paid £900 on this day by cash. And as you can see now, the balance is automatically adjusted, and it tells me that the guest needs to pay £920 more. Now let's say that it's checkout time and the guest needs to pay the rest. Again, you click on new payment, and if the guest will pay the whole amount with one type, you can just select it here and just select the payment type. But let's say the guest will pay half of this 920 via cash. So let's say for 50, they'll pay via cash, and the rest will pay via card. And this way you're indicating these payments in the system and obviously adjusting the balance of the guest. In this way, you're also indicating what was the type, again, mainly for the reporting purposes, basically. And of course, for the balance. Now, when you add card payment, this doesn't mean that you're charging the credit card. This only indicates the payment for the system. How you're charging the card is, yeah, I'm not really sure how currently you're charging cards, but yeah, the way you're doing it, you charge the card, but for Clock PMS, you need to indicate this payment in order to balance out the folio and know that this guest has paid absolutely everything. Then we have the voiding, basically voiding, removing charges, and removing payments from the bill. You're always requested to add a void reason, regardless if you're the master user or just a front office agent. You are always required to add a yes. So you can. That's exactly what the void does. It's you're deleting the charge from the bill. So just by having voids, you're removing the charge from the bill. Again, you have a log, more or less, of the voided charges. This for monitoring purposes and so on. just to keep track if somebody is mishandling or trying to steal from you or something like that. You have this log, but they are basically deleted from the bill, and they're not. The guest doesn't pay. It doesn't need to pay for that. And the same with the payments. If you by mistake add the payment, you can void it and add the new payment or the correct payment. So yeah, here you have a summary, of course, of the total. Now the other thing, of course, is the transferring. You can transfer one charge, you can transfer all charges to another bill, to a company profile, and so on. Let's say I want to transfer this full body massage to another booking because the other booking will pay for it, let's say. And I can search in booking checked in. I can, if of course the booking is checked in, I can select to which one. I'll see their open bills, the current open bills, and I can select to transfer this massage to that specific bill, or I can transfer to a new folio. And for example, coming from booking and enter what is the number of this booking. And now when I click on add folio, you'll see now that the full body massage is gone. It's not here in this bill any longer. But if I open the booking itself and scroll down, I'll see here a notification that I have transfer charges from this folio to this booking and to this folio. So I have a direct link to that bill, and I see here the body massage that I just transferred, and this is the bill of the other booking. And I see here also that this full body massage has come from another booking, and of course which one. And this way you can transfer separate charges, you can transfer them to another bill in the same booking. Let's say there are two guests, two friends, and they want to split the charges between them. They want to have their separate bills. So actually you can do that. You can just transfer and basically split the charges between and have two open bills. In the booking itself, let me just go back. In the booking itself, you can have, this is actually not the correct one. You can have as many folios as you want, as you can see. I can have as many folios as I want. If there are 5 guests in a room and they all want their separate bills, that is absolutely fine. You can have those separate bills, and you can have as many bills as you want in a booking. However, we recommend to usually keep them as low as possible. And yeah, this is the transferring. Again, you can transfer it to the same booking. You can transfer it to the company that is associated to this booking. Again, you can select already open bills in the company profile, or you can create a new bill in the company profile. You can select another company instead of this one that is assigned to the booking. I can select another company, and if there are no records, this means I don't have open bills in this company profile, and I can create a new one, and I'll transfer this. Okay, in this case I cannot for this company. I'll explain why in a moment. This is individually. What I can do is I can also select several. By clicking select multiple, I can select several charges and transfer them or void them. Or I can just click on transfer all charges, and absolutely all charges in this bill will be transferred at once. You don't need to go one by one and so on. You can transfer absolutely all of them using the same function. Here in the functions, you can give a discount, a quick discount. You can add a text. You can select to which revenue groups this discount will apply. If you're giving discount only for the nights, then in that case, you only need, for example, packages, because my rate is from revenue group packages. I don't want to give a discount on the extras. I don't want to give a discount on the tax. And what will happen now is it will calculate the discount, And as you can see, it is added here based on this. As you can see, my packages in total is 250 and 10% discount is 25. So it lowers the price basically with 25. Remove remove taxes. Basically, this removes the taxes. This usually for people that are exempt from paying tax. Usually, from what I know, usually it's military people. They do not pay tax wherever they stay. So you can use this function to directly remove the tax. And of course, at the end, it does lower, depending on what's your tax setting. In this case, I had the taxes included in the prices, but now when I removed it, of course, my price drops down because the guest is not paying for the tax. As far as I know, your model is tax excluded in prices, so basically it will just remove the extra charges for the taxes here. There will be no additional tax here, more or less. I don't know if this makes sense. Is it clear? Do you have any questions, guys, up until now? Especially now for the bills, as obviously they are quite important.
No questions.
Oh, okay, good. Great. So here I just want to mention to disregard these three buttons. These are connected with some interfaces, other interfaces and so on. Probably you're not seeing them in your account, and that is normal. Just not to get confused why you're not seeing these buttons. The credit card payment, credit card, and the terminal. The thing with the transfer, you can also transfer payments. As you can transfer charges, you can transfer payments. Let's say, yeah, again, to a company, you can indicate that you can send this payment to the company bill to indicate that at least this portion was paid and from where it is coming. So, yeah, this about the charges. Eric, can you elaborate a bit more on your question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So far, you mentioned how to fix or change a rate on a reservation for a room, but I mean, I know I can change to any price I want, but in case in this scenario where a client I quote a rate and after that I offer a discount, am I allowed to show them like the original quote and somehow also the reduced price?
This is mainly for, let's say, this works best in the web reservation system for your website. If you're doing quote, let's say via phone, or you're sending it via email, you mean? For example, you're sending a quote via email. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Like somehow, or this can work in the reservation stage, or also during while he's already checked in. Like, you know what? I have a problem with this. The manager offered me 0.5% off discount in my massage or something like that. Can I have like see all those discounts reflected in the system, or I have to do it manually, but it's not reflected as a discount, but just like a random fixed, or how is it work?
So one option is to use the discount function. and apply to the respective revenue groups. And basically, for the guest on their bill, when it comes, basically they'll see discount. And they'll see what is the amount that they have been discounted. Now, this discount text is, I mean, you can select what the discount text should be. Discount for body massage, for example.
Oh, okay.
And the guests will see on their bill discount for body massage. And they'll see the amount. The other option is just to, if you don't want to use the discount function, because usually it works with percentages and it's on revenue group. So if you have other charges in the same revenue group, they'll also be discounted. What you can do is you can just select the charge and edit it. And you can change the price. And this way, you are changing the price of this charge. And you can either increase it or lower it. It's up to you. So you can directly edit the chart. You can edit the text. Again, this is depending on the user rights that you have. But basically, you can change the price and reflect basically a discount or just lower the price without the guest needing to see discount on their bill. So there are two options that you can use it. Either manually change the price by editing it, or just using the discount function. But as I mentioned, it works based on revenue groups. So if you have more charges in the same revenue group, they will be also discounted.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And now on another thing regarding the charging of credit cards, actually you will be able to, you are actually going to see the credit card payment button. And what this credit card payment button does is actually it initiates the transaction and it charges the credit card of the guest. Now, here what is very important is if you have a tokenized card, in this case it is deleted, I'll just add a new one. So if we have a credit card in the system, when we go to credit card payment button, you see existing cards already, and you need to enter the value that you want to charge. Let's say 500 euro, and save. And what this will do is this automatically charge the credit card with the amount. And also when the transaction is completed, automatically here in the payments section, you see the transaction number, you'll see the indication that the 500 has been charged from the card, and there were no issues, let's say. I mean, the guest had the amount in the card and it was charged. So basically from here, you are directly charging the credit card. What's important here is that by default, we have this clear credit card data ticked. What this will do is once you complete the transaction, the credit card data will be deleted. If you don't want that, you just need to untick it in order to not delete the data. Here, what is taken is the existing card in the booking that we saw. The other option is you can add a new card and enter the details, and then you can charge it. And when we save, as you can see now, it tells me that there is an issue with the details. Of course, it's a test credit card. So, but eventually it will go through the interface, and the transaction will happen. Basically, of course, if the guest has enough money in the card. And once it is completed, here in the section, you will see payment type online, and basically the transaction number, so that if needed, you cross-check that with your authorized net account, for example. But yeah, this is how to charge credit cards. Then the other final thing basically for the bills. Here you can change the currency of the bill, enter some notes, give a name of this bill if needed, up to you. And you can enter the billing to details, for example, the guest name, country, if you want something else to be on the bill, or if you want this bill to be associated with a company. From the preview button, you can always check the bill, and this is basically the view that the guest usually sees, and we'll see. You can check the bill, check if everything is all right, and you can either print it, you can send it. If you have different languages for the bills created, you can select what language you want. You can change the view. As you can see now, it's compact, meaning that all the charges are basically compressed to each other. But let's say I want by date, and this will say, okay, on this day, this applied, on 22nd, this, and so on. So you have also different view options, how the bill can be represented, and you can either print it, or you can send it via email, or again, using the print function, you can save it as PDF, for example, if you want, or send it via email directly to the guest. Now, the other important thing is the closing. Now, the issue is you have by default, you have two options, close and close invoice. What the close does is, from an open folio, it turns this bill into a closed folio. It's not an invoice, it doesn't have the invoice name, it's just a closed folio. If by law you're required to issue invoices always, then in that case you need to use the close invoice. Clicking on close invoice will close the bill, and as you can see now here, instead of open folio or closed folio, I have invoice, and I have the invoice number as well. And basically this is the final stage. And when we go back to the bill, now probably you will notice something very interesting is that the void buttons are now gone from the charges. The add charge is gone as well. And here obviously we have the invoice name and the invoice number. Now the reason why the charges are gone is because once you close a document, either via invoice or just with close, you cannot make any more changes to the value of the document, because usually that is illegal. So I cannot void the charges, I cannot add new charges, I cannot change the value of this bill. I can still play around with the payments, that is okay, but the value of the bill cannot be changed anymore. If there was a mistake made and you close the document, but something needs to be changed here in these charges, then it's needed to work with correction documents. We have the correction folios. So let's say here I can add a new correction document, which basically the more used term is a credit invoice or a credit note. For example, you're giving a discount to the guest has left, they have a complaint after 10 days, and you decide to give them a discount for something, but you already have the closed invoice and you want to lower the value. Then from here, using this correction document, you can add, for example, a manual charge. I'm going to return to the guest €100. And save. And now this will be basically a credit note for €100, and can close it as well. And then at the end, the value of my main document is also changed because of these €100. As you can see, I have 100 debit invoice in this case, and my balance is back to, until now the guest had to pay 124 more. Was minus 124, now it's minus 24 because of this correction document. So this, if I need to do a partial correction, this is now an official document which corrects the invoice. This is totally legal and totally fine. And usually the two documents should be together with each other when you send them out. Of course, here you have information that this was corrected and with which invoice and so on. The other option is if you want to completely correct and remove this invoice. The guest, let's say it was a big issue that the guest had, you're going to give them everything for free and you want to cancel out this whole document. In that case, full correction. And what this does is basically cancels out this invoice, completely cancels it out, and it no longer and it basically no longer has any value to it, and it corrects absolutely the whole document. This is in case, again, as I mentioned, if you need to do changes to the value, basically to the charges of a already closed invoice document folio. Doesn't matter if it's folio or if it's an invoice. Once it is closed, you cannot make easy changes to that document. Okay, now going back to the booking. And here always you have all the information. As you can see, the correction documents are represented, that this invoice has been corrected twice with two separate documents. You are getting the whole information needed. Now the deposit folio, this one I do not recommend to use. This option to add a deposit folio, it is used only in case, let's say, the guest is paying $500 as a deposit, let's say 2 months before arrival. And if by local law you are required to issue an invoice, a document specifically for those $500, then you can use the deposit folio. If by local law you are not required to issue such an invoice specifically for those $500, then do not use the deposit folio. In cases the guest pays, let's say, $500 in advance, you just add it with a payment. Payment $500 in the main, and that is in the main bill that the guest will have in the booking. You just add $500, let's say it was paid via bank, and you can write in the deposit received on which day and in which of your bank accounts, for example, so you can keep track, and you'll see this. This is the easiest and best way to handle deposits in case you have such, without using the deposit folio, because using the deposit folio has a lot of other functions connected to it, and it's just a big mess. And it is only needed in cases local law requires it. Otherwise, not really needed. From what I know from other customers from Mexico, that there is no such law that requires you to issue specifically for the $500 that you've received an invoice. So you can just keep it. And here, split charges. Basically, this is the case where you have, for example, two guests two friends in the same room and in the same booking, but they want to have it split their bill. And from here, basically, you can do that. However, I need some charges in those bills. Let's say this and this. Now, if I click on split charges, I'll see all the open bills that I have. Now, of course, there are a lot because I clicked a lot of add folios, but usually should be one. And then what you can do is you can just select certain charges that the guest wants transferred to another bill on their booking, or you can directly click the split equally Actually need to select them, all of them, click on split equally. I want to select with which other folio here that would be. And now I have two bills, as you can see here, one bill, second bill in the same booking with the same charges, but their values are split in half. So they're paying 400 for the conference each, full body massage 1250 each. So those charges are directly split between each other, or you have percentage if you want some differences in that. And when we go to the booking now, you see two bookings, two bills basically, here and here with the same amount, because I split the charges equally between the two bills. If you have open folios that you do not need, just for example open them by mistake, you can just directly void it. Again, void reason is always needed. And yeah, that's it. Void it and that bill is gone. Okay, Ale, it was nice talking to you. Thank you for attending, and yeah, we'll keep in touch if needed. Yeah, so basically this is the bills, more or less. One very important thing for canceling when you have a canceled booking or you mark a booking as a no-show. Now, let's say the guest didn't arrive. So I mark it as no-show. What happens here is this warning message is very, very important, because the same thing applies for canceled bookings from Booking.com, from Expedia, and so on. When you have a no-show or a canceled booking, the charges in those bookings are not voided automatically. As you can see, I have a no-show booking. It's basically canceled. But yes, if you make a charge accidentally, you can just void it. Let me check where we have a bill. So here we have the charges. Let's say that this body massage was added by mistake. I can just click on void, add a void reason, and I'm deleting it from the bill. However, as I mentioned previously, this only works if your document is still an open folio. If you close it, then you cannot directly remove it. Then you have to play with the correction documents that I explained earlier how to do. But you can just directly use void reason, and you remove it from the bill. But coming back to this, yeah, so I was talking about the no-shows and the canceling. When you have a no-show or a canceled booking, the charges are not voided automatically. As you can see, I have still open folios with active charges. Whenever you have an active charge, this means that this charge is still counted in your revenue. The reason why those charges are not canceled is because the system doesn't know how are you going to proceed with late cancellation fee, penalty fee. Are you going to return money to the guest if you already took some deposit or something? Are you going to charge the guest for canceling very late one night? The system doesn't know that. So that is why the system doesn't cancel the charges, and manually you need to cancel the needed charges. If you're not going to request any money from the guest, then you can directly void the whole folio, which will void the charges as well. Or, for example, if you're going to have, if you're going to charge the guest for one night as a cancellation fee, you can void the charges for all the other nights and just leave the one for the one night that you're going to actually get money for from the guest. So this is very important to keep track of the canceled bookings and the no-shows. the system will generate to-dos about that whenever you have a canceled booking and a no-show to check the charges. Specifically, it creates a to-do to check the charges. And then you can take the appropriate actions because otherwise you have, if you don't cancel the charges in canceled bookings, this means that you have inflated revenue, which is not actually real. It's not real figure. So that is why I keep track of canceled bookings and the charges in it. Finally, here we have the registration cards. Obviously, the guests, when they check in, they need to fill out probably information, document type, ID number, passport number, whatever. From here, you can add a registration card. You can add one empty, basically with that the guest can fill out completely, or you can add a registration card with the information of the guest that you already have in the booking already added. Or if it's a return guest and they already completed the registration card before, you can search for the guest and load the registration card previously with the guest already completed, and basically they don't need to complete it again, they just need to sign it. And here you can print it, for example, and give it to the guest to fill out and sign. Or if you're using like a tablet or something like that, they can just complete the information here and sign it. Or yeah, usually when you have the registration card, let's say you have it empty, or as guest you enter all the information from their passport or from the ID card, you save it, and once you see the guest, you just ask them to sign it. This is with a mouse possible. This with the registration cards, and again, if local law requires it, you can also make passport images. Again, for the system, these are the only two allowed spaces for images of passports and ID cards. Again, we're using machine learning and algorithm that if the system detects a passport image somewhere else in the system, it will delete it. Again, this is for data security. And here again, from the booking email section, you can send another email if you have emails created in the guest mailer up front for different cases. You can send that email manually from here, or you can just select an empty template, write down something of the guest, enter the email address, the subject, and send it, or just select an email from the already created templates. Let's say before arrival check-in, it will load the template, and you can send it to the guests in different languages if you have it, and so on. So yeah, basically this is it. The to-dos, again, you can create a to-do attached to this specific booking. If you want to create a to-do that is not attached to a specific booking, but just a general to-do, menu other, to-do, and here you can add a to-do which is general, not specific to a certain booking, but it's general, like check the flower pots in front of the gate, for example. And this way you can assign it to, let's say, housekeeping, and they can go and check and so on. So this way, from other to-do, you can create a to-do not connected to a certain booking. And also, basically, here you have the archive of your to-do messages. Okay. Any other question? Any questions if you have? Do you have any questions up until now? Hello?
Ilya, I want to show them these screens in our property account. And
Okay.
can you allow me to share my screen so they can view how looks the rooms and
Yeah, of course.
apply in our case? Pues miren, esta es la cuenta de la Baliz. Aquí está la tabla del calendario, igual como aparece en ResNexus. Como dijo Ilia, los colores aparecen en verde cuando el huésped ya pagó su depósito, en rojo cuando ya está en el periodo del depósito pero no lo ha pagado, y aparece y en amarillo cuando, un segundo, cuando todavía no está en su periodo de depósito y no ha pagado. Entonces, aplican más o menos las mismas características que nos enseñó ahorita. Solo en la parte de Guarantee Option, aquí está la opción del depósito 100% 30 días antes. Este sí lo tienen que seleccionar cuando creen la reserva. Y cuando el huésped haga su pago de depósito y ya hayan agregado el pago, solo tienen que dar aquí de Guaranteed para que se ponga en color verde y ya marque que ya no debe nada. Y no sé qué otras dudas pueden tener. Ya lo vemos más a fondo después. Pero por el momento, ¿ustedes qué me pueden decir?
Muchas gracias, Oscar.
Qué hermoso, Oscar. Gracias.
Yo. Lo tienes que quitar el mute. ¿Cómo, perdón? Es lo mismo que en ResNexus. Perdón, ¿me decían? ¿Tienen alguna duda? No, bueno, entonces, de todos modos, cualquier cosa, pues lo vamos resolviendo conforme la marcha.
Sí, estamos analizando los tres aquí la situación, igual y algunas dudas podemos hacértelas después.
Al San Patrick o algo.
Ilya, for now we don't have any questions. However, I will give them access to the support tickets so they can send any questions they could have.
Okay, yeah, just send me the emails if you want. They can send emails directly from them so that we can verify them, or just give them access through your account that you already have. Up to you. Either give them access from your account or just send me the email addresses and the names, and I'll send everybody a verification email. Now, just one quick thing before we end. I forgot to mention. I'll just share my screen again. I'll stop yours, Oscar, which is actually very important, and that is the language of the system. Basically, because I heard French, I heard obviously Spanish, and so on. Every user can use the system in a different language. So either you can change it yourself, depending if you have the user rights, or the person who has the user rights can change it for you. Just from menu users, you find the user. For example, let's see mine, and here I can select to have the system in Dutch. And now my system, whenever I log in, basically I have the system in Dutch. So this way you can have the work with the system in the most convenient for you language. I can have it in Spanish, I can have it in basically any that the system here offers, and this is per user. So you select it for yourself, and from then on you're going to use the system in this language that you've selected. So the people who are French speakers can use it in French. Obviously, the Spanish speakers can have it in Spanish, and so on. So this is important. If you if you wish to use the system in a language different than English. But yeah, more or less, this is the training. More or less, we covered all things. Maybe it would be a good idea, actually, one more thing, under bookings, guest profiles. Here you have all the guest profiles. What is important here to know is that this is a database consisting of the guest profiles from all your properties in the subscription. So the guest profiles in your properties are shared between the accounts. So this way you can know return guests for your organization and so on. What is very important is that a guest profile is created only when you have an email address associated to that booking. Let's say here, if I don't have an email address here, I will not have a guest profile. I mean, I'll have name and so on associated to this booking, but here in the guest profiles, I will not see this. I need an email address for this guest profile to be created. And when it's created, you see it here, and you can edit and add information. You can add labels like VIP guest and so on. We saw it a bit earlier, this specific case. You can add notes. Let's say this. And also you're seeing all related bookings with this guest profile. And also when you have the booking of with such a guest profile that has labels and notes, you'll see them here on the top. And this way you know, okay, this guest is special, VIP. Basically, you have the whole information. So this regarding guest profiles, and it's important just to know it's created only if you have an email address. That's because, you know, two people can have the same name, but they will not have the same email address never. So the email address is the way for the system to differentiate the guests, and that is why it's the only required thing in order to create a guest profile. And again, the profiles are shared between properties. So this way, if the guest has been in Lavalice, Mexico City 2 years ago, and today is in Encantada, Tulum, you will see that this guest has been 2 years ago in Mexico City, in your property in Mexico, for example. But yeah, I guess this is it. I would suggest to have another meeting on after some period, once you get to use the system a bit more, if you have cases, questions, to basically go over them. And more importantly, to talk about the reports, because unfortunately for today, we will not have time to talk about reports, about night audit and so on. So that's why I would suggest to have another meeting, let's say in 1 week or after you've used the system for some time, so that you have, you know, played around with the system, have questions, have cases, and we will discuss them over that meeting.
Perfect, Ilya.
Okay, I just want to see that someone wrote me in the chat. Just one moment, because I cannot see the message. What do you mean, Rocco, to separate per session exactly?
Rob, ¿estás ahí?
Okay, just to have a session for bookings, a session for bills, and so on. That's what you mean. Yeah, I see. Oh, yeah, it is. I know it's a lot of information for one meeting, but also we have like logistical things, and sometimes, yeah, it is too. I understand it is sometimes a lot, but the thing is that it sounds a lot. But once once you start using the system, you see that it's very user-friendly and very easy to understand. and you get used to it very, very quickly. It's very intuitive, so you won't have any issues. But yeah, I do agree, it is a lot of information, and it would be better to have it a bit more separated, you know, one meeting for bookings only, one meeting for bills, but yeah, there we also have logistical issues if we need to have that many meetings. But yeah, basically this is it. If you have any questions now, just go ahead. If not, then I'll be expecting any questions over email, or just on the next meeting we can talk over it.
Right, Leah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oscar, do you mind if we have 2 minutes?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, okay. Once, yeah, we can. I just want to discuss a couple of things with you. But yeah, then in that case, thanks to everybody for joining. I hope I was helpful and clear. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions, Oscar will tell you how to contact us. And yeah, you can even if you think you want to ask a stupid question, don't worry, send it to me. Usually stupid questions actually are very important, so don't worry about it. Anything that you want to ask, just send an email and we'll be more than happy to assist. Thank you all, guys. Thank you very much. So, Oscar, regarding the MarketMan thing, we are working on building the interface. At the moment, I do not have an exact timeline. I'm just waiting for our head interface developer to come back, because he just had a baby last week and it's now, you know,
yes,
out for a couple of days or just 10 days or something. So I'm waiting for him to come back, and I'll have more information about MarketMan, and basically I'll let you know as soon as possible. But we are building the interface to MarketMan, so you can make use of it eventually.
Perfect.
Yeah, and that's actually what I wanted to discuss with you. If you have any other questions aside from the training, go ahead. Otherwise, with the channel manager, actually,
yes,
how are things going?
in fact, we will delay the activation until the April 2nd.
Okay.
And so we will have this week to check the system, playing around, or start using it. But
Okay.
for the channel manager, you told me that we just need 1 day, right, to connections with the OTAs?
Yeah. Still, really, I mean, yeah, for 1 day. I mean, we schedule 1 day when we do the activation, and in that day we activate it basically. And if there are no issues, no delays, and so on, then it can be activated even for 1 or 2 hours when we start the process, even less. But
so
yeah.
we can do that the April 2nd, that it's Monday, and next day do the full activation in our website to add
absolutely. I can even schedule it now for April 2nd to activate the channel manager. For that, I believe we discussed it. You need the channel manager file completed.
Yes.
You managed to see it, right? I shared it with you.
I'm working on that, and I will send you. Hope tomorrow.
Okay, good. And the other thing is just to select Room Cloud as a provider in the channels, and that's it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. But if you're currently using a channel manager, then do the switch on April the 1st, for example, or on April 2nd, very early in the morning. actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you're not using a channel manager currently, then it's fine.
Okay, perfect.
That's the thing. And then on April 2nd, we'll activate it, make the connection with the channels, do the mapping based on the file, and once it's active, of course, we'll provide you with all the details about the bookings from the channels, all the implication it has, like messages that you will receive, what will happen, what happens if you get canceled bookings for for example, you get a cancellation on a booking that was created on booking.com before the channel manager was active, because there are some things to know about it, or the same with a booking that was created before the channel manager was active is modified when the channel manager is active. So there are a couple of things that we'll explain thoroughly when it is active.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Okay, cool.
then any question, I will send it to you by email.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your help, Leah.
You're very welcome, Oscar, and thanks again to everybody who's still here. And yeah, wish you a lovely day further.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Oscar. Cheers. Bye-bye.